Hi, my name is Katy Wright, and I'm a lower Montessori teacher in a public school. I teach for second and third grade, and I'm very excited to be with you today to talk to you about how you can give your child the best start in phonics. So, we have had a lot of pendulum swings in education. You may have heard of whole language, science of reading. Luckily, we are back to phonics again, but there is a problem. The first skill taught and assessed is capital letter names. Pretty much all of the educational programming for kids on TV, toys, everything has capital letters. Our alphabet song names the letters. And I'm not sure why we do this, because when we want kids to read, we want them to know lowercase letter sounds. So I'm going to talk to you today about how we teach phonics in Montessori education, which is a much more intuitive, natural, easier way for your child to learn how to read. Let me take you through the order of literacy skills, and I'll explain each one. So there's phonemic awareness, which is your child being able to identify the individual sounds in words. And one fun way to practice this is you say k, a, t, and then your child has to say, oh, cat. Or you can give them a word, cat, and they have to break it apart into the sounds. And this is a fun way to practice phonemic awareness and should be practiced all the way up until they're fluent readers. And then the next thing on the literacy skills is phonics, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Then there's vocabulary development, knowing what words mean. And then there's reading fluency, which is being able to read with prosody, which is kind of like speed and expression. And then reading comprehension, understanding what you read. Now, even though these are usually listed in an order like this, the truth is these can all be worked on cyclically and concurrently. You're doing vocabulary development with your baby when you're naming body parts and naming people. So and the best way, by the way, and we'll get to this at the end too, the best way to help your child work on fluency, two things, is to read to them, because you are modeling that prosody, the speed and expression. And then also nature, kids want to read the same book over and over and over and over and over again. And you might think, oh, they need to read something new. No, the best way to increase fluency is to read the same thing over and over and over again. And that's kind of like nature is telling us the best way to do it, and sometimes we fight it. Okay, so phonics, step 1. This is how we do it in Montessori. We only ever call the letters by their sounds. And the child learns, and sometimes this happens starting at like age 1, age 2, they learn the formation of the lowercase letter concurrently with the sound. We have sandpaper letters in our classrooms, but you can do this, just go buy sandpaper and with a Sharpie write the lowercase letter on there, and you can do it. We usually use 2 fingers, and we teach it we would say ah, 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 as we're showing the letter formation to the child. And it's kind of like, I'll show you, and then you do it. And it's really important when you're teaching your child the formation of the letters concurrently with the sound, that you're there monitoring and correcting as needed. Because once something is in muscle memory, it's very hard to break it. So when kids come into my first grade classroom forming letters incorrectly, it's very, very difficult for me to break that muscle memory, because they've been forming the letter that way sometimes since they were 3 years old. So it's really important as you're teaching your child how to form the letter concurrently by saying the sound of the letter, that you're there monitoring and correcting. So here is what it looks like. You can hear her, she was saying t, t, t. And now she only will ever call that letter a t until she gets much older. To her, the name of that letter is t. That's an a. And you can see on my sandpaper letters that I use in my classroom, because I don't have an adult with every child practicing letter formation, I have arrows on there to help the child make sure they do it correctly. The other really interesting thing about how we teach phonics in Montessori is we don't present the letters in alphabetical order. We present the letters in an order that will allow kids to immediately start to read and write words. So there's no set order in Montessori, but this is one example. So for example, after introducing set 1, the child will be able to make and read cat, mat, at. After set 2, rip, sip. Even you can start working with blends, trip. Okay, side note, I want to diverge for just a minute to tell you that it is not too early to have your little baby start working on pincher grasp strength and coordination. There are so many fun activities to do this with. I've seen hanging clothespins on a line. I've seen activities like this picture that you can buy on Montessori material websites. I've seen tongs, picking up little puff balls or cotton balls with tongs. And the really great thing about working on these pincher grasp activities at early ages is it builds child's concentration skills. They love these activities and they will concentrate for long amounts of time moving cotton balls with tongs from one bowl to another bowl. You may have seen 1-year-olds crawling around and trying to pick up sunlight on the ground. Okay. Phonics step 2. We have something in Montessori called the 3-period lesson. And the 3-period lesson can be used with any academic skill. It's just kind of a procedure for skill mastery. And so what we would say when we're introducing the letter is, this is an A. And then we would show the letter formation, and then we would have the child practice the letter formation. And then we might introduce the next letter. This is a And then the child. And so once you've introduced, like let's say you've introduced set 1, and you would have those 4 letters laying out, and then you would say to the child, can you show me the A? And the child would point to the A. If the child does not point to the A, then you need to, to go back to step 1 of this 3-period lesson. This is an A. And when the child can do all of step 2, which is, can you show me the A? Can you show me the It's kind of like playing I Spy. Kids love it. Then the 3rd step is, what is this? And you point at it, and they say, ah. And by the time they get to the 3rd step of the 3-period lesson, that's skill mastery. Step 3 in building phonics is, and this would come a ways later because it takes a while to introduce all 26 letters and begin to build words with the sandpaper letters and practice identifying the sounds. Always calling the sounds by their name. You will catch yourself because it's not natural for us because of the way we learned. It's very, very hard to get used to calling letters by their sounds, but you can kind of make a game of it with, if you have older kids that are struggling, that you're going to take them back now and have them learn. This is what I do with 1st graders. When they come into my classroom and they're struggling, I say, okay, I'm so sorry that you were taught in a way that was harder for your brain. We're going to learn the alphabet song by sound. A, B, K, D, F, K. We do that. And then I ban the use of letter names. And I'm the one who usually breaks the rule the most, and the kids love it. Ah, you said the name. Ah. And so that is a way to help a struggling child go back and learn this the right way so that they won't struggle anymore. Okay, so step 3 will be building words with a movable alphabet. This is a Montessori movable alphabet. And the really great thing about the Montessori movable alphabet is you'll notice the consonants are all red and the vowels are all blue. And this color coding really helps kids with spelling later on. But you can totally use like those little refrigerator magnets as long as they're lowercase. Don't use anything capital. But you can use any kind of movable alphabet. You can make your own. It does not have to be, you don't have to buy a movable alphabet. But then you can start working on CVC words, which are consonant, vowel, consonant words, using pictures that maybe you've cut out of a magazine or maybe you've bought materials. And the child looks at the picture, like hat, and then uses the movable alphabet to build at. So at this point, they are reading. Later, you can introduce a pencil after you've done a lot of the pincher grasp things and they know all of the letter sounds. Well, actually, if they're older and they've done a lot of pincher grasp activities, you can introduce a pencil. If they're younger, I would hold off introducing a pencil until they really have excellent grip and hand coordination and they know the letter, all of the lowercase letter formations. And this is what, when they do get to writing with the pencil, this is what it would look like. Could be think.
Mat.
So you can see how intuitive that process is. So in Montessori, in normal conventional education, the literacy skill progression is speaking, reading, writing. That's the way I learned it. But in Montessori, it's actually speaking, writing, reading. And if you you'll want to find leveled readers that move in this progression of reading and spelling skills. You can just search online and find them. There are some free printable booklets. You can buy some. There's definitely ones to buy out there, little leveled reader sets. And the progression that you want to do, and I'll go into each one of these in more detail on the next slides, is consonant, vowel, consonant. We call those CVC words. And then short vowel words with beginning and ending consonant blends. Short vowel words with digraphs at the beginning and end, and I'll explain all these. Long vowel spellings, R-controlled spellings, diphthongs, and then open and closed syllable and multisyllabic words. And I forgot to tell you earlier, there are some letters that make two sounds. For example, vowels make a long sound and a short sound. When you're introducing the lowercase letters with the sandpaper, you want to only teach the short vowel sounds. A, I, first. And for letters like C and G that have a hard sound and a soft sound, you want to teach the hard sound first. So K and G first. Okay, so CVC words are just consonant, vowel, consonant words. And you can see this is a Montessori alphabet, so the vowels are blue, which is really, really helpful. If you are going to make your own out of something, then doing that kind of color coding will really help your kids. Beginning and ending blends with short vowel words. So all of these words have a short vowel sound in them, and then a consonant blend like full, either at the beginning or at the end, like nd or mp. Beginning and ending consonant digraphs with short vowel words. Digraphs are like sh, ch, th, fw, and f, ph. Long vowel spellings. There's lots of different long vowel spellings. There's silent E, there's two vowels that go together, there's Y at the end. And one thing that I like to do when kids get to this level, it's really, really fun to have them make a chart that says like long A sound at the top, and then break it into columns, and then give them a book or a newspaper or magazine, whatever, and have them do word searches to try to find words that go in like an AI column on the long A page or a silent E column on the long A page. It makes it really fun for them to work on spelling. And this kind of spelling work is so much more effective than just memorizing a spelling list and doing a test. When I used to do spelling that way, the kids would get 100% on the spelling test, and then I would never see that word spelled correctly in their writing. So, and then when I started in a Montessori classroom and started working through spelling this way, kind of in conjunction with reading and writing like this, I see so much more skill mastery. This is R-controlled spelling. So we call it bossy R sometimes. And this is another fun one to do a chart with. So you put R-controlled at the top and you have AR, or ER, IR, and UR all say and then OR and AR say or and R. So they're a little bit different, but it's fun to have them do kind of word searches or like almost a collage where they cut out a word and put it in the right column. Diphthongs are two letters that go together to make like oi or aw or ow. And there's multiple ways. This is another fun one to do a chart with. And then open and closed syllables and multisyllabic words. So an open syllable is like table, where there's a long vowel sound at the end of a syllable. And then somewhere in here, you will have taught syllables. That's a really fun thing to do with little kids, is to clap syllable sounds. So that is kind of a summary of the progression of the spelling and reading skills. And like I said, you can search online and you can find free printable stuff that work in that order, but you really want to go in that order. You don't want to introduce long vowel sounds before they've mastered that other stuff that should come first. Okay, so later on, after they've practiced all the pinch or grasp activities, you've introduced the pencil and you want to get your kids writing. The most growth I see as a teacher in reading is when kids write a lot. When we were in COVID and we were online learning, kids did pretty well practicing reading and math at home, but the thing that they didn't do at home was write. And I think part of the problem is that parents either did some of this stuff that I'm going to tell you now or didn't do some of this stuff. If you want to get kids to write, you need to get them to not worry about spelling. They need to use, early on we call it invented spelling. Later on, you just need to say, write the sounds you hear. And saying write the sounds you hear is different than saying sound it out. I don't know why, it just is. If you say sound it out, kids get more frustrated. If you say write the sounds you hear, for some reason that frees them up to go do that. One of the hardest things I have in my job as when my first graders come in, because I have first, second, and third grade all together. When my new first graders come in every year, the hardest thing to do is to get them to not care about spelling. They don't want, I don't know why. I don't know if they have been, like humiliated for their spelling. I don't know what it is, but it makes them not want to write. But what happens when they start writing and writing the sounds they hear, their spelling gets amazing. So it really, really, really will help your child become a better reader is if you can get them to not care about spelling and do a lot of writing. So saying, write the sounds you hear, don't correct their spelling, don't negate their ideas. I had a little boy one time that wanted to write this very short series about like all these things, like the grass grew and then it got stepped on. Poor grass. And an adult kind of humiliated that idea, and that I had a really hard time getting that little boy to want to write again. For some reason, little boys' ideas about what they want to write about get negated more than little girls' ideas. I'm not sure why that is. But you need to let boys write about what they want to write about. If they want to write about video games, let them write about video games. If they want to write about battles, let them write about battles. We want them to write. So don't negate their ideas. And then, the way kind of around that is put the reader's perspective in their mind. So instead of saying like, I don't understand what's happening in this story, or criticizing in that way, but you say, I wonder if the reader will understand what's happening. Maybe you should give some more information, or maybe you should tell what's happening. But it's a very useful thing at an early age to put the reader's perspective in their mind. And then a great way to inspire writing is to, when they finish a story, you type it. And then they get to illustrate it, and then they get to do author's chair on it to your family at dinner or whatever. And then, so when you're typing their story, fix everything. Fix all the spelling, add capitals at the beginning of a sentence, add punctuation. So when they are reading it, and they will be very motivated to read their own story, they will see it correctly. So remember, teach only lowercase letter sounds. Call letters by their sounds only. Work on pinch or grasp activities. And let them write without worrying about spelling. Now, capital letters are very important. They will need capital letters for the beginning of sentences when they are ready to master that skill. They need capital letters for proper nouns, for names and stuff. So and they will need to know letter names as they get older, and they're going to be spelling things out loud. So those things are really, really important, just not early on, because otherwise it makes kids double decode, which some kids make the leap just fine. I must have, because I didn't struggle. But when kids struggle, 99.99% of the time, in my experience, they are struggling because they are trying to double decode from capital letter names to lowercase letter sounds. So just teach the lowercase letter sounds first, in conjunction with the letter formation. You want your child to have good associations with reading. So a couple tips for how to do that. As they get to be more independent readers and they don't know what a word is, just give them the word. If they come ask you what the word is, don't help them sound it out. Don't coach them. Just give them the word. Because at that point, they're working on comprehension and understanding what they're reading. And so you want them to have that word so they can continue that process. When you want to practice reading skills, or like the decoding and sounding things out, play games to practice those skills. Don't practice those skills when they're reading the book. Just give them the word when they're reading the book. Really, really fun games to play to practice the skills are I Spy. I spy something in this room that starts with a S. Or I see a word that has a short vowel sound. Or I see a word that has an I sound in the middle. Or I see a word that has st at the beginning of it. Stuff like that. And sometimes you can do it either like if after you've finished a book, on that same book, you can go back and say and play I Spy on the different pages. I spy a word on this page that has 2 syllables and a consonant blend that says mp at the end. That's fun. Kids, and that is great, great practice. But having them practice those skills while they're trying to read a book it leads to frustration and not just loving reading. So give them the word when they ask for it. Read to them as long as you can, as long as they'll have it. What parents tend to do when kids become independent readers is to make the kid read to the adult at night. I guarantee you, your kids at school are doing a lot of decoding. So it is so nice for them and builds such good positive associations with reading if at night they can just snuggle in and you read to them. And when you're reading to them, you're modeling that fluency, that prosody, the expression. You're modeling your thought process as you're reading. Maybe you're commenting on something the character did or something that happened in the story, which is building comprehension. Read to them. Read to them. I promise they're doing enough reading at school. Or if you homeschool, they will be doing enough reading during their school time. At night, read to them. Snuggle in and build those positive associations with reading. Thank you so much.